I'm Dean Odle, and I approve this message.
Now, I'm a Republican. The Republican Party's trying to blackball me because I'm continuing as a write-in campaign, though the state law allows me to do that. In fact, state law says if I lose in a primary and continue as a write-in candidate, that I have to remain in the same party. So the Alabama Republican Party's policy on write-in campaigns does not follow state law as well. But let me tell you why I'm continuing, folks, why I felt it was important to continue. Because I'm a man of principle. Somebody said, well, if you run as a write-in candidate, won't you help get the Democrat elected? And I said, which Democrat? You see, we've been, I think, through both ignorance, being fooled at times, but also, as I'm going to share in a few minutes with you, the voting machines have been manipulated. And this is why we keep getting rhinos like Kay Ivey, Republican in name only. We get Democrats who pretend to be Republicans in our state house, our legislators, and they don't do anything. I'm going to tell you, I would bet you're not going to get much traction with our legislators. I don't care how hard we push, because most of them are weak, bought and paid for rhinos. They are Republicans in name only. They are really Democrats, and this is what we're dealing with. But part of this is, and I don't have enough time to give you everything, but I'll say this. On May 24th, one of the reasons we don't even know exactly who won the primary, because on May 24th, I watched 30,000 votes move from one candidate, from Governor Ivey over to Tim James and back. We watched my vote totals not change for 2 hours. We watched CNN reported at 11:17 Eastern Time that we all had more votes on May 24th evening than we had when all the votes came in on May 25th. Now, there's a big battle going on. Are the voting machines secure? Of course, the United States Government Branch Homeland Security, CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, left-wing Democrats, communist Democrats, their minions in the press, all of them say that the 2020 election was the most secure election in American history. Now, this is the same mantra that comes from the Democrat nominee for governor, Yolanda Flowers. Also comes from our so-called Republican Secretary of State, John Merrill. He says, oh, there's no way the machines are secure. There's no way they'd be hacked. Let me remind you of something. John Merrill is a politician. He is not a cybersecurity computer expert. I sat in the courtroom there in Montgomery on August 30th and listened to 8 hours of expert testimony on the voting machines. I want to tell you right now, I listened to for instance, Colonel Sean Smith, United States Air Force, retired, specialty cybersecurity for years. He tried to stop hacks on our most sophisticated weapon systems, the Department of Defense. He stated that our most sophisticated weapon systems get hacked regularly, sometimes get turned on, about to be used against us, with the most sophisticated encryption and teams of anti-hackers working to stop these hacks. What's funny is a former Homeland Security officer came on my Facebook page after I interviewed one of the experts on the voting machines and hacking, Clay Parikh, came on that post and said this to me, said, the machines can't be manipulated. Well, that, again, Colonel Smith, these experts say that, in fact, Clay Parikh, who's an expert and worked for the voting machine certification companies, says that he can hack the ES&S machines that we use here in Alabama anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes. That's all it takes. They say they don't have modems, all this other stuff, but let me tell you right now, the Democrats out there are just screaming and crying when we talk about there's problems with our election security and integrity, but they weren't singing that tune in 2018. In fact, there was a lawsuit filed by this lawyer, actually it's now the commissioner of the Federal Elections Commission. Her name is Dara Lindenbaum. She was a lawyer on a case for Abrams over in Georgia, saying that the voting machines had switched votes from Abrams to Kemp. So in 2016 and 2018, the Democrats are crying out, the voting machines are switching votes. But the moment Trump supporters or some Republican or conservative says, yeah, we've seen some funny things go on with these voting machines and we need to get rid of them, oh no, they start crying, you're threatening our democracy. I talked to Tim James. Tim and I got to be pretty good friends through the campaign. And we talked about a month or so afterwards, and he told me that his polling had Kay Ivey at about 38 to 40%, and he was paying for real polling. Of course, our campaign couldn't pay for polling. So, but I knew that from traveling the state. I would run across people and say, I don't know who I'm voting for. They didn't necessarily say they were voting for me, but they said, we're not voting for Kay Ivey. I couldn't find 5 people in 2 years that said they were voting for Kay Ivey. Most people that know this and look at this situation realize that she probably didn't win that race without a runoff. We don't know who would have won. Somebody said, well, Lindy came in second and so on. We don't know. We saw a 90,000 plus vote jump for Kay Ivey that went just straight up in one moment. And when I calculated that, it is actually the 15% that took her from 40% to 55%. Folks, I want to talk about the voting machines. I could talk about this all night. The voting machines in Alabama, this goes all the way back, the manipulation, to 2002. And this is when they introduced, I believe, the hammer and scorecard technology that the CIA and the NSA our government began to use this. Now, folks, I want to tell you right now, I went to the Moment of Truth conference in Missouri a few weeks ago that Mike Lindell had. I stayed there for 2 days listening to expert testimony from Sean Smith, Clay Parikh, but there was also Mike Lindell's lawyers. And Mike Lindell's lawyers got up and they read the sworn testimony of 2 men, Dennis Montgomery and Dr. Navid Kashvarez-Dia, which these men work for the United States government as contractors for the NSA, the FBI, the CIA. They developed the technology to hack into foreign nations' elections. And it was called Intrepid, was part of the technology. These men have come out as whistleblowers saying they discovered the United States government, the FBI, the CIA, was using their technology that was supposed to be used to spy and find terrorists in other countries and hack other countries' voting machines, were being used on our voting machines. Now, this is a guy named Dennis Montgomery and again, Dr. Navid Kashvarez. Dr. Kashvarez is an MIT graduate, and they developed these systems. Now, this has been presented, the evidence has been presented in federal court, and they're blocking this evidence. But if anybody tells you there's not evidence that the voting machines in America are being manipulated and controlled and hacked, if they're telling you that, so there's no evidence, they don't know what they're talking about, or they're part of the problem. And it's going on in Alabama. And in Georgia, just in Georgia, how many of you heard about the county commissioner, DeKalb County Commissioner's race, District 2? You know what happened? This woman that was running found out that there were no votes for her in her precinct. Yeah, there was no votes. This is a Democrat primary, by the way. Found out no votes for her in her precinct. She knew her and her husband had voted. So they actually checked. When they checked the machine totals versus the paper ballots, guess what they found? Over 3,000 votes that went to her. She actually won the election. This was on May 24th of 2022. I want to tell you right now, it's happening here in Alabama as well. Now it's one of the reasons why that I decided to continue my campaign as a write-in candidate. Number one, when you fill in the bubble on a write-in slot on the ballot and you write somebody's name in, the machines have to kick those ballots out and they have to be hand counted. So the first thing is that we found a way to go around the machines. And also what we have decided to do, which is perfectly legal in Alabama because I've read the statute, is that you can take a selfie of yourself with your ballot or a video. I did it when I was, first time running for office and you get to vote for yourself. I'm like, I'm videoing this. So we asked to make sure, we asked the poll workers and everybody, is that legal? Can we do this? Because I hadn't really looked it up at that point. They was, oh yeah, it's fine. Others have done it in front of probate judges and on down. Some will try to tell you though, in different parts of the state, oh, you can't have a camera in here, you can't have a phone. It's a lie, you can. But what we're telling people to do, if you vote for me for governor, which is legal, I am still a registered candidate for governor of Alabama with the Secretary of State's office. I'm registered as a Republican. I am not a Democrat. I'm not an independent. I'm not a libertarian, and I never will be. I am a Republican. I've been a Republican longer than Kay Ivey or John Merrill or even Steve Marshall. I've been a Republican. I've never had a D beside my name and never voted for a D, okay? So I've been a Republican a lot longer. They're not kicking me out. That's why I'm being a thorn in their side right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to get everybody who decides to write my name in for governor because we're not going to vote for the fake Republican Kay Ivey or the Democrat Yolanda Flowers. And we're going to get you to take a selfie and text it into a secure box. And on the brochure, you'll find the number to text your selfie ballot to. The only thing legally, you can take a selfie of you and your ballot in the polling place. You can take a video. But you just can't get anyone else in the video or anyone else's ballot, just you and yours. And then what we're going to do is we're going to test our numbers against the state numbers. And if there's a big, huge difference between the number of ballots that we get text to us and what the state says we have, we'll be seeing the state of Alabama in court over this. You say, well, now, and I always get asked the question, well, if you run as a write-in candidate, won't that get the Democrat elected? Let me just tell you right now, folks. Yolanda Flowers is the weakest Democrat candidate that they've put up in many, many, many years. I mean, decades. I don't even remember one as weak as she is. She's scared to debate me. She was supposed to debate me in Huntsville this last couple of weeks ago. And once she found out I would be there, she bailed out of the debate, even though she set up the questions and the debate format with the Libertarian. But I went ahead and debated the Libertarian. But in her own party, they are talking about that they don't like her. And there's a write-in candidate on on the Democrat side now named Jared Budlong. And so you will see under Yolanda's Twitter page and her Facebook page, there are people saying, don't vote for her. She's not really a Democrat. She's weak. All this different stuff, saying vote for Jared Budlong. So there's a write-in candidate on the Democrat side. There's a weak Democrat candidate. We've got a weak governor who I don't even know if she'll make it to November 8th. We'll see. And which I really call her, she's a Democrat. She raised our taxes like a Democrat. She allowed Obama's Common Core to continue like a Democrat. She took dark money, almost 1.7 million she took from dark money sources, which is really illegal in Alabama. We're supposed to know where your money came from. 2018, she took $103,000 from George Soros PACs. She appointed 8 Democrat judges in the state, folks, real Democrats. I don't know how you could be more of a Democrat than Kay Ivey. Yes, illegals and everything else. And like I said, she could stop this stuff. She could put the full weight of the governor's office behind it and put a stop to this stuff. Yes, Becky?
She didn't stop the transgender schooling.
Right. Yeah, she didn't. And here's the thing. And this is why I'm doing this, folks. And I'll tell you, you say, well, you didn't come in second or third. Well, again, we don't know. I tell you, I don't believe the results. We know a lot of Democrats, even our state GOP chairman, John Wall, admitted that many Democrats crossed over and voted. And so we don't really know the outcome, but I can tell you this. I came home after May the 24th and said, I'm ready to go back to my normal life. 60,000 miles, 2 years, speaking everywhere that I could speak. I spoke here, this is my 3rd time, and I'll come back anytime you have me. I'll go anywhere to speak to any size group, but I will say I'm doing this because I got home and I said, I'm tired. We took a vacation, went to Gulf Shores for about a week, got some rest, came back, and about 2 o'clock one morning, the Lord woke me up, and I got up to pray, and I prayed till about 6 o'clock in the morning. And when I prayed, I felt the Lord say, you're not done. I want you to run as a write-in candidate. Well, I didn't even know that was even a possibility. I didn't know the law of the state at the time. Looked it up, found out. And for me, some people say, well, do you have a shot at this? Does that matter? See, I look at it this way. We either, as Republicans, and I might say Republicans, I'm talking about true Republicans, true conservatives. We either become people of principle and fight for what is right and true and quit compromising, or we keep voting in these rhinos, these Republicans who are really Democrats. And I'm willing to take the heat. They say, because I'm running as a write-in candidate, the Republicans will not allow me to run as a Republican for 6 years. But you know what? I don't care. We don't have 6 years. Look at what Biden's administration has done in 2 years. I'm continuing this, even though I know it's going to take an absolute miracle of God to actually overcome and win as a write-in candidate, though it has happened in campaigns of U.S. senators and U.S. congressmen, and even in the state of Alabama it's happened. Write-in candidates can win, but the people have to rise up And we will never change this if we keep saying we have to settle for the nominee, or we have to settle for the rhino, or we have to settle for the lesser of two evils. No, we don't. If some of us would rise up and say, you know what? I'm going to rise up and fight for what I believe, what I know is true, what I know is right. I can't help it. You know, somebody said, well, Lindy Blanchard should be doing this, or Tim James should be doing it. Well, they're not. They decided to go home. They decided to say that they were done. And that's fine. I wanted to be done. I know the feeling. Tim and I were both like, whew, there's something else, especially when we got toward the end there. It's not easy. I tell you what, campaigning for 2 years and traveling this state and speaking in this fight, I'll tell you, it was one of the toughest things that I've ever done, but I would not take it back. I would do it all over again. We've got to save our state from this corruption that's coming in, and it's only going to get worse. This corruption, them coming after our children, our school system, this corruption, now they're going to come in with the digital dollar and try to take over economically. And we are going to have food shortages in the days ahead. We are going to have serious issues that are being caused by the United Nations and the World Economic Forum and these policies, these globalist policies that are creeping into Alabama. And I'll tell you why Scott Harris and their stonewalling is because they get $40 million. They just got $40 million from the CDC. And they're going to follow the government. And the government, listen, I want to tell you something. The United States government, if you don't believe this, you better let it sink in, has been hijacked. And it's been hijacked by communists, New World Order, you call them whatever you want to call them, the cabal, but they have been hijacked, and they pretty much have infiltrated almost every agency, including now the presidency. And the voting machines have helped them do it. And if by some miracle God intervenes like he did with, look, that was a miracle of God for Trump to win in 2016. He overcame the algorithm to cheat through the machines. He overcame that. That was God's mercy upon us. I hope he wins again, even though I disagree with him about the vaccine and some other things that he did, but I would take Trump any day of the week over what we have now. But folks, we're in trouble. And if we can't change the presidency because of the voting machines and the cheating that they do now, we've got to save Alabama. And folks, I don't know what to tell you. There's people, Yolanda Flowers is a woke, rabid liberal. This one is Democrat light. The libertarian, don't let the libertarians fool you. In the debate, I confronted Dr. Blake. He said he was pro-life, but, and began to think he said it was people should be able to make their own decisions. I said, then you're pro-choice. I said, there's no pro-life but. You're either pro-life or you're pro-choice. There's no in between. And they want to legalize marijuana, and they've got some other crazy ideas. I will be the only true Republican, true conservative still running for governor of Alabama on November 8th. And that's just the way it is. And you can like me or not like me, but I'm the conservative one. I'm not the fake Democrat. So I don't know if you can do it or not, but you pray about it. And you help us get the people to rise up, and we might actually pull off a miracle and take our state government back from these rhinos and see the change. Because I promise you one thing. If I'm governor of Alabama, we will drop the hammer on this nonsense. Everything from this transgender nonsense to all this other stuff going on. I will drop the hammer. The investigations will begin, and we will clean house. I will be their worst nightmare. I promise you. Anyway, I want to thank this. I want to say this before I quit. I want to thank this group because I have enjoyed speaking to this group more so than just about anywhere else I've been. You guys do have a great group here. You got a great heart and passion for what is right. And I just want to say thank you for having me 3 times in this elections series and having the boldness to have me here, even though you might get in trouble with the state party a little bit. God bless you guys. Pray for us. But I'll say this. Always stand for your principles, your morals, even if you have to stand alone. God bless you.